What's up, YouTube? What's up, boxing fans? This is Perfect P234. Wanted to talk about the weight issues in boxing. Recently heard a video done by European Boxing News. We had a bunch of people on, and they were giving their pound-for-pound lists. I want to talk about two of those guys that are on that list, Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Carl Froch. Okay. Just recently read an article on BoxingScene.com where, in the past, Carl Froch's manager has addressed the Bernard Hopkins situation where Bernard wants to fight Carl Froch, and he's calling him out. He was saying they don't want to fight. They don't want to fight at all. And now they came to this situation where Carl Froch is saying, look, I'm not going to go up 7 pounds in weight to meet you at light heavyweight. I've been fighting at basically super middleweight my whole career. I'm not a light heavyweight. So if the fight happens, it's going to have to be at a catch weight. Now, Bernard Hopkins had called out Carl Froch. So if Bernard Hopkins wants to fight, he would have to acquiesce to his demands, or in some way incentivize him to not make it at a catch weight, like maybe give him a bigger purse or something like that. But Carl Froch is saying that he's willing to do it, but only at a catch weight. Don't know what specific number he's looking for, whether he wants it at 170, 169, 171, whatever. But he's on most people's pound-for-pound top 10. He's a pound-for-pound great right now, and he's being called out by a guy who's slightly bigger. So Carl Froch is asking him, Bernard Hopkins is a legend, by the way, asking him to come down in weight to meet him. He also refers to Bernard Hopkins as a legend in his article, and he says that he would love to fight a guy like Bernard Hopkins, but he does point out that he would only do it at a catch weight. Floyd Mayweather, a man who is by non-haters considered to be a small welterweight, a guy who fights at his walking around weight. So generally, anybody who fights are at their walking around weight, other than heavyweights, they really belong in at least one class below where they're actually fighting. But he fights at welterweight. He campaigns at welterweight. And he has challenged himself and fought bigger guys and went up to the 154-pound division and fought guys and beat them. But he never defended the titles in that division. So he stayed down primarily in the division that he's at, which is welterweight. Now he's being called out by a heavier guy in a division higher than him. And he's saying, okay, well, if you want to fight me, come down 7 pounds and fight me at the division that I'm fighting in. Now, a lot of people saying that that's a catch weight. It's draining. It's draining, but it's not a catch weight. Catch weight is a non-official weight. So if he's asking for a fight with Floyd Mayweather, and he's asking, Floyd Mayweather's asking him to try to take his strap from 47. That's the title that he's interested in defending. That's the division that he's comfortable in. And if you saw his 2 fights at 154 pounds, he did not look comfortable in those divisions. Those were some of his toughest fights. Let me see. There's 4 fights in his whole career that were really, really tough. Emmanuel Augustus Burton at lightweight, while he was reigning as a super featherweight champion. He went up to lightweight to test the waters before he went up there officially. He fought Augustus. I think he broke his hand in that fight. And Augustus was relentless in his pursuit of Floyd Mayweather. But he overcame that. Second was a Jose Luis Castillo when he had the injured shoulder going into the fight. Not that he injured it in the fight. And then he wound up, stomping him out in the rematch. Next was the 154-pound fight with Oscar De La Hoya. I don't think it was a split decision, but it was a 8-4, 7-5 type of fight. It was a tough fight for him. Good thing he picked it up towards the end. And his fight with Miguel Cotto last year in May at 154 pounds. So he hasn't had the best of luck in that division. And I think one of the reasons is because you have to use the bigger gloves and it slows him down. The weight per se isn't that great of an issue for him, I don't think. But when you're calling someone out, you come to where you meet them where they're comfortable. I mean, if they're in their own division, if they're in your own division, then that's a different story. Now, you could say Carl Froch never fought at light heavyweight. In actuality, he did earlier in his career, but he never held the title at light heavyweight. He never won a title there, and he never defended a title there. Floyd Mayweather, on the other hand, has won a title at light heavyweight. Has won a title at super welterweight or junior middleweight. He actually won 2 of them, and won one of them recently last year. So there is a difference there as far as comparing Froch and Floyd Mayweather. But the key point to remember is that these are the guys that are being called out. Now, if you want to say, Canelo wants Floyd Mayweather's WBA belt, well, that couldn't be the case because Canelo Alvarez actually has Floyd Mayweather's WBA belt. As I said in previous videos, because he unified the WBC and WBA in his fight with Austin Trout. And the WBA has a rule that if the title is unified, they designate a super champion to the unified champ, and then they leave off a regular champ belt. So they have 2 belts in the division that are recognized as official belts. So that's why Trout and Floyd had a WBA belt, but Floyd had the super belt. Now Canelo has a super belt, so Floyd doesn't have his belt anymore at that division. Doesn't quite matter to us as fans. I would rather just see Floyd go up there, take his 2 belts, and then he's a 10-time champion. Whether or not he wants to pay the sanctioning fees or if he'll even keep those belts, that's a different thing, because he could technically be a 10-time champion, being that he fought Angel Manfredi and Shane Mosley and didn't keep those belts. But I just wanted to point out the fact that when someone's being called out, the person that's being called out calls the shots. Also, if you read the comments on those articles, the article for Froch and the article for Floyd, when Floyd brings it up, there's a lot of hate on there. When Froch brings it up, there's a whole lot more compassion and understanding. Unfortunately, my computer's down, and I'm using my phone to do this, so it's not like I can pull up the articles and read off some of the comments. But there seems to be a double standard. They're both pound-for-pound fighters. Top 10 pound-for-pound fighters. Great resumes on both fighters. Floyd just happens to be undefeated. He seems to be held to a higher standard. They don't take into consideration, of the weight that he should be fighting at versus the weight that he actually fights at. And they just want to see, more from him, and he realizes that he has, greater expectations on him. The expectations for Floyd Mayweather are really high, he said in an interview on the radio. So, if you see a guy like Carl Froch, you're like, okay, you're not the biggest name in the sport. Bernard Hopkins is a pretty big name, and a fight like that would be a pretty good fight. Now, B-Hop has an opponent. Froch has Kessler, and then he has to fight Ward, and then so sometime after that, that would be a situation where they could meet up and fight. But in actuality, there's nobody crying, for Froch to really go up to 75 and fight B-Hop, even though he's the one that's being called out, and it would be good if he did that. There's no real difference other than the weight. He's going to rehydrate. But, between 47 and 54, there is a difference in the gloves, 8 ounce and 10 ounce. But I don't know. Let me know what your opinions are, guys, and peace out. Take care.